high intent and valuable audience, and you need to be targeting those people. Groundwork foundation that every brand should build on their email. At least half of your flow revenue through that one email. You're making nothing. All you are doing is introducing unnecessary risk, and there's zero value. One thing I've learned over the last couple of years is there is a baseline email foundation that every brand should build, especially any brand doing over maybe 1.5 million a year, that will get you very far. You can scale a brand up to 15, 20 million a year just utilizing that foundation in the current Facebook ecosystem. There's obviously more advanced things you can do as well, but there is this kind of base level groundwork foundation that every brand should build on their email. First, you need to capture the emails. The tried and true best practice email capture pop-up is a 10% off discount code with your logo on a solid color background. That is like the standard go-to. I've tested it on multiple brands using lifestyle images, using like different image treatments versus that solid color. The solid color wins about 80% of the time. We have definitely seen brands where we can get like maybe, email capture on the left. I think Timbuktu, the backpack company, is where I first saw this. We've tested on some brands, works on some, doesn't on others. Image on one side, email capture on the other with the 10% discount code. That can work. Image behind it, if you have the right treatments, you can still read it. That can work, but 80% of the time, it's going to be 10% off discount code on a solid background is going to get you up north of 6, 7, 8% capture rate. First thing you have to do is capture those emails. The rest of the system does not work if you don't have any emails to send. Once you've captured the email, the most important flows to set up are your welcome series and your abandoned cart. If you're offering a discount code, the discount code should be in your welcome series. So they are opening your email to get that discount code. That helps with your deliverability. If you want to do a double opt-in, it also allows you to do that. Brands that have the welcome series, but then just give the discount code right away, those people might immediately unsubscribe or never open your email, which gives negative signals to the inbox provider. So it's good to always have that discount code in the first email of the welcome series. And then the welcome series should be 3 to 5 emails, typically, introducing people to your brand over a week and a half long period. You're going to get at least half of your flow revenue through that one email. So that's a really important one to have set up. The second one is the abandoned cart email, which 90% of brands go into Klaviyo, Shopify integration, and click on the standard abandoned cart flow. The problem with that is it triggers when they start checkout, not when they add to cart. And so you're going to lose about 80% of your audience there. And people who add to cart is a very, very high intent and valuable audience, and you need to be targeting those people. You definitely want to make sure that you're setting up an abandoned cart that triggers off of added to cart, not off checkout started. That is a huge mistake we see a ton of brands make because they just go in and use the standard Klaviyo Shopify integration flow. You'll get 2/3 of your email revenue, even in a fully mature, like very well constructed email ecosystem. Through your abandoned cart and your welcome series, you'll get 2/3, 3/4, like even higher. Those are the bread and butter. So far we got email pop-up, welcome series, abandoned cart, and then you got to be sending people email blasts. Welcome series, people will be in it for, 7 days, then they're out. Abandoned cart, people are in it for 5 days, and then they're out. People need reminders. Everyone's way too busy. Everyone has way too much stuff they want to buy. They need a reminder that you exist, and emails are just free banner ads on their phones. So typically what we see, and this is, we're really working with brands kind of in the $3 to $20 million range, but 2 to 3 blasts a week, only to people who have engaged with you in the last 90 days. Typically, we segment this between customers and prospects, people who have bought and people who haven't, but you want to be emailing the people who have engaged with your site or with your emails in the last 90 days, 2 to 3 times a week, and then emailing other people on your list maybe once a month with some sort of promotion. And then the other portion of that is having some sort of promotional cadence. Some brands shouldn't do promotions. They don't need to. Discounts is one of your biggest levers in marketing. When people see sale, they go crazy. I mean, just look at Black Friday and how that's become like an international phenomenon. But you should be sending email blasts 2 to 3 times a week and then sending a promotion on some sort of promotional cadence. Our default is every other week you have some sort of promotion, buy one, get one free shipping for a day, whatever it is. Some brands will do once a month, but having some sort of cadence that you do that on.
What metrics would you prioritize to gauge the success of an email marketing campaign?
That's a great question. I think that there's like Your highest level indicator is your open rates. Open rates are non-deterministic. There's something called machine opens now, like G Suite opens 100% of the emails that come into your inbox. So it's not a perfect metric. And that's why I say keep it above 40%, because 40% is like literally the floor of what you should be at if you're not in spam just from machine opens. So that's a really good leading indicator for just, are you getting in there? The second metric at a high level is percent of overall revenue contribution. At a low end, you should be at 20% of total, 10% coming from flows, 10% coming from blasts. That's for high impulse purchase items where you're going to have a very quick funnel. People either buy it or they bought it from someone else or they're off. For higher consideration products, it's going to go up. Your middle of the road is going to be 30%, 15% from flows, 15% from blasts. And then for really high consideration products, things like backpacks, high quality backpacks, and maybe someone buys once every 6 years, you can even get up into the 40s with about, again, half from flows, half from blasts. That's like your leading indicator of, are you getting into people's inboxes, or the open rates? Your lagging indicator of, is your email ecosystem contributing what it should, is percent of revenue contribution. And then in between, when you're looking at click-through rates and conversion rates and all that sort of stuff, that really you start to get into, like, is it email 1 or email 5? Is it the welcome series or the abandoned cart series? Was it a promotional blast or just like a product info update? It starts to become very case by case what you should be seeing, but really open rates and then percent of revenue contributed from email are the two major metrics I look at on an overall channel level.
Are there metrics that people shouldn't bother looking at?
I think that all the metrics that you get out of these email platforms, open rate, click-through rate, on-site conversion rate, all of those sorts of things, they're all useful if you contextualize them correctly. If you're comparing your welcome series email 1 to your abandoned cart email 5, like, all of those are going to be way different. As long as you understand the way people are getting these emails, the type of mind frame they're in, how much intent they have, then you can start to look at the individual metrics and especially how they change over time and know whether or not you are seeing anything in there that is a cause for concern. But if you go in with a one size fits all mentality, you're going to end up pulling a lot of incorrect conclusions.
So I have a question, not necessarily about metrics, but this just popped in my mind, where people A/B test and they're like, oh, we're going to test, the CTA button above the fold versus below the fold, or we're going to test different subject lines. Like, I feel like there's a lot of conflicting information where people are like, you have to A/B test. And then there are some people that don't A/B test. Like, what's the importance in that?
You can A/B test an email, but getting the level of data for it to be statistically significant and a repeatable test is very difficult. I have campaigns where I'm running, cold email marketing campaigns to the tune of like 50,000 emails a day. There I can get some pretty deterministic data on what's working and what's not. And there I can get pretty granular with the types of things I'm testing. But if you're running an e-commerce brand, even doing $20 million a year, A/B testing like your abandoned cart email 1, when you start to get down to that level, there's only so much data that you have flowing through it. And it takes a while to get signals. And you really do have to have some pretty extreme tests to make sure that you're getting strong signals. If you're testing an orange button versus a blue button, unless you're doing $100 million a year and pumping a ton of traffic through that thing, you're not going to get a strong signal, and it's probably not really going to make a difference. And you can't run variant A this week and variant B next week because the market's always changing. Intent is always changing. People during summer are less likely to buy products than they are during Christmas. And that changes week over week. Your list changes week over week. A/B testing is difficult just because there typically isn't a ton of data to get to meaningful insights quickly.
Can you explain the process of developing effective segmentation criteria based on your experience?
What's the goal of segmentation? It's kind of where I'd start with that. The way that I've been using it most recently is really to protect deliverability, as that has become harder and harder. I mean, literally 11 days ago on February 1st, Google and Yahoo released more stringent deliverability requirements. And we're definitely seeing effects on some of our clients. A lot of the ways I am using segmentation recently is to protect deliverability. And the way that you want to do that is you want to find the break point where people stop converting at a higher enough rate for it to warrant emailing them. Just to give an example, when we're looking at engaged versus unengaged segments, so we'll segment it into engaged customers, unengaged customers, engaged prospects, unengaged prospects. We will see that the non-engaged segments will have 3 times as many people, 90 days versus 270 days, but they will contribute 4% of revenue. So you are emailing to all these people who aren't opening, who aren't clicking, who are not driving any actual value, and you're hurting your deliverability and not actually gaining anything out of it. Now, 90 days is a breakpoint we use as a standard, but we're starting to test into more stringent segmentation with some of our clients where we are seeing that even in that 90-day segment, there's a lot of people not interacting. And so if you start to test into it, right, bifurcate it into 45 and then 46 to 90. Or 60 and 61 to 90 to start to see how each of those segments behaves over time, you might end up finding that one of those segments or a lot of those segments isn't actually driving any revenue, and you're just incurring risk by sending to more people with no reward of additional revenue. So I think in today's day and age where deliverability has become harder and harder and harder, testing into knowing which cohorts actually drive your blast revenue allows you to extract 90, 95, 98% as much revenue from your list without risking ending up in spam. If you're just building your list, you're not doing that much revenue, maybe sending to all is fine, right? But as you start to mature and you start to actually build up a list, especially over time, people stop using that email. They leave that job. They migrate to a new email provider, whatever it is. And you end up with all these emails that are valueless, really. And so there are definitely brands that grow and email to everyone. And that is the quickest way as you grow to end up in spam. Now, all of a sudden, Google is saying, wait a minute, they're emailing these people who don't even exist anymore, right? These emails were deleted. That looks like a scammer or a spammer. We're going to ding them for that. We talk to brands who are like, whoa, 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 you're going to stop sending to 3/4 of my list? Like, aren't I going to lose 3/4 of my revenue? And we can show them by segmenting it out and sending, the same email, but to those different segments. Like, no, we're going to stop sending to 3/4 of your list, and you're going to lose 3% of your revenue from these blasts. But you're also going to gain more revenue from this other portion actually getting into their inbox and not going to spam. There's definitely brands we get in with where they're super concerned we're going to be sending to less people or even deleting people from their list entirely. But it's pretty easy once you start segmenting to see that all the revenue generation comes from a really small portion of that. And the rest of those people are driving no value for your brand, no revenue for your brand, but are putting your entire email program at risk.
When you explain to them about segmenting, this way, do you also explain to them that they should be cleaning their lists more frequently to, suppress those emails that are no longer good? Do they do that?
One of the worst anti-patterns that I have seen is people having sunset flows. So basically what this is if you haven't interacted with any of our emails in 6 months and 9 months, something like that, we're going to put you into a flow. We're going to send you 5 emails in a row that basically say like, hey, don't you want to come back and interact with us? And if you don't click on anything, then we'll delete you from our list. The best way to protect your deliverability is to get high quality signals to the email providers. People are opening your emails. People are clicking your emails. And so if you take all the people who have never engaged and put them into a flow where you're emailing them every couple of days, you have this ongoing cohort of super low engaged people. And so Gmail is looking at it being like, damn, they're sending to all these people who never open, who never click. This looks like a spammer. And so we're going to start sending them to spam. So if people aren't interacting with your emails, just like suppress them. You don't have to delete them, but I mean, like, if you're never going to use them, delete them. You don't put them all into a flow and start emailing them, because then your welcome series is going to start going into spam as well.
It's interesting that you say that, because Flavio recommends doing a sunset flow. Most people always recommend you should have this flow to try to re-engage people, but you're saying that's not a great idea, which I agree with you. When how you're explaining it, like, it makes sense, right? You're literally sending to everybody that's not shown any interest, expecting them to re-engage.
We have had brands with sunset flows where some big cohort, like your Black Friday cohort, goes through the sunset flow 6 months later. And the Black Friday cohort, maybe they all entered their emails because you're doing a 35% off discount. But those people are not engaged with your brand because they love the brand. They were engaged with your brand because they wanted something in the moment. Those people, like, a lot of them go, I don't remember this brand, market as spam, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, everything's going to spam. We have had brands have their email revenue fall off a cliff, like drop 66% over a couple days because a massive cohort from 6 months ago went through the sunset flow. It is my like number one thing I turn off when I get into a brand, because you also look at it and you might be getting like $100 a month from it on a brand that's doing like 20 million a year. So it's like you're literally making nothing. You're making nothing. All you are doing is introducing unnecessary risk, and there's zero value.